today, one of the values that people really cling on to very much, almost at all costs, is the idea of freedom, but it's often a sense of freedom to do whatever you like.
Yes.
A freedom not to be interfered with, not to be judged, indeed not to be condemned, not to be told differently. And I always go back to that wonderful book, The Sources of Christian Ethics, by Father Servet Pincars, a Belgian Dominican of the 20th century, where he makes that rather nice distinction between the freedom of indifference and the freedom for excellence.
Ooh.
And he gives some very useful examples, saying, for example, if you've got a piano in front of you, well, you could make, with the first kind of freedom, the freedom of indifference, you could make a whole, you can make any kind of, you can make noise, you can make a whole racket just by pressing any key you would like. And that is freedom. It is a kind of freedom to do. And that is, sadly, the conception of freedom many of us have today in modern secular Western society. But he said, think, by contrast, of the person who would subject themselves to the discipline of practice, of rehearsal, learning the language of music, perhaps of training their body. That's a very poor line metaphor there, of training your body, subjecting it in order to produce, to be able to play the most beautiful sonata or concerto. And now if you look at two, well, one the novice pianist and the other the master at the instrument, who would we say is actually more free? I think we have the capacity to recognize that it's the second person, the one who is free for excellence, who has a different kind of, a more interior, a deeper source of freedom. It's a freedom to be the best person they can be relative to that instrument, and not so much the mere freedom to act in a very, very limited range of capacities. And so once we think about flourishing excellence, we have a different model for thinking about freedom and autonomy.